Welcome back to Epic Worldview, where we help you see the bigger picture. I'm jkevinparker. Let's talk about Ochi's dagger in the Rise of Skywalker. I get a lot of questions about this, so let's break it down. First, how old is the dagger? Many have assumed that the dagger was ancient, largely due to its function as a plot device similar to a treasure map in an Indiana Jones or Goonies adventure. Alas, the Sith blade is only about 14 years old. Ochi was a Sith loyalist who longed for the return of the Sith to power. He was on a mission to find Rey and deliver her to Exegol for the Emperor. To find Exegol, Ochi, like our heroes, had to acquire one of the two wayfinders. He scoured the wreckage of Death Star 2 and found the Emperor's wayfinder in the Imperial Vault. Rather than keep it with him, he left it in the vault for safety. Ochi made the dagger to act as a treasure map to where he found the wayfinder so he could find it again when it was time to deliver Rey. Why not just take a photo and mark it? Because he was a Sith loyalist. Come on, everything has to be so dramatic. So how do we know that the blade is 14 years old? Ochi's ship, the Bestoon Legacy, was possibly spotted departing Jakku 21 years after the Battle of Yavin, which is when Rey was dropped off on Jakku. Lando and Luke followed Ochi to Pasaana, and there the trail ran cold. We find out that Ochi had killed Rey's parents and ultimately died underground on Pasaana. Rey and the crew find Ochi's remains and his dagger in 35 ABY, just 14 years after Ochi's mission prematurely ended. So, knowing that Ochi was pursuing Rey after finding the wayfinder and making the dagger, we can estimate that the dagger is about 14 years old. The ancient Sith runes were used to prevent others from finding the Emperor's wayfinder. So how did a huge chunk of Death Star 2 make it to this moon? Didn't it blow to bits above the forest moon of Endor? First, let's address the size of the wreckage. Looking in the Rise of Skywalker visual dictionary, we see that the Death Star debris on Kefbir is a relatively small piece of the overall structure. So how did it get here? Kefbir, also known as the ocean moon of Endor, has an orbit similar to the forest moon. So as debris flew in different directions, this chunk was caught in Kefbir's gravitation and slammed into the ocean. Why didn't the wreckage shift or break up over all that time? The Battle of Endor took place in 4 ABY. The Rise of Skywalker takes place in 35 ABY. So the wreckage has been there just 31 years, assuming it didn't drift in space for a while before getting drawn to the moon's surface. Even though this is a small chunk of Death Star 2, it is so large that this wreckage sticks up many kilometers above the ocean's surface. And it's definitely not floating, so it is firmly anchored to the ocean floor. It is still breaking up and polluting this ocean, and it is responsible for the violent weather. Just another reason that it's good that the Obama administration elected not to build the Death Star that was proposed in 2013. And yes, that's a real thing. Finally, how did Rey know exactly where to stand? This was one of 2 moments in this film that made me say, okay, yeah, that's not very realistic. I have since changed my mind, and after I show you why, you'll understand this too. How Rey knew exactly where to stand has a 2-part answer. First, the translation of the writing on the dagger said, "Only from the southern shore this blade tells." And I totally missed that detail the first couple of times I saw this film. Once I caught it, this made much more sense. But the shore could be several kilometers long. So again, how did she know exactly where to stand? The answer is, it didn't matter as long as she was on the correct side of the wreckage, the south side, and standing on the shore that is a certain distance away. You don't buy that? Let's consider Mount Hood in Oregon. From the west side of Mount Hood, this mountain has a very distinctive shape that is well known to Portlanders and others in the Pacific Northwest. Here's a virtual dagger I made to point to a specific spot on the mountain. How is this comparable to the Death Star wreckage? That mountain of metal stood several kilometers above sea level according to the visual dictionary. Mount Hood stands at 3.4 kilometers, so the Death Star remains are at least as tall as Mount Hood. Now what if you are standing north of Portland at the Columbia River, or in downtown Portland, or in the forest or farmland a little bit south and east of Portland? As you can see here, angling the dagger ever so slightly to line up with the shape still points you to the same spot. So I hope that helps you understand Ochi's dagger better, how it functioned in the story, and how it was directly related to Rey and Ochi's mission to deliver her to Exegol. Let me know in the comments what other Star Wars questions you want answered. Please like and subscribe and follow me at jkevinparker on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. And may your worldview truly be epic.